Okay, so let's begin. Let's start with the normal distribution. This is one of the final subtopic in chapter 10. Okay, normal distribution is being done if you have the graph somewhere in this bell curve shape. Of course, it's supposed to be yeah, you got the idea. My drawing is not that good. Bell curve. And what do we know about the bell curve? Here is your probability of 0.5, which is also this side as well. And the total probability is equals to 1. Right? And most of the time it will be noted something like this, where x is normal and you're given here's the mean. And what about this? You're given in the variance. So in a way, I'll say this is the mean. This is the variance. The formula, you will go in 3 phases. Normally they say 2, but I would like to add one more, which is 3. The x value, the z value, and I'm proposing to add one more, which is the probability. Basically, the x value is where you're given you want to find the x, and you want to find the mean, and you want to find the standard deviation, however. That stands for standard deviation. The z value is where you get things. You want to look at the table. And the probability is the reading. Final answer. Okay, so let's have a look for a while. Am I too fast? Final answer. Okay? So, yeah, I think I add one more here. Normally you get your z, which is equals to x minus mu over standard deviation. Or you might just want to say x minus mean over standard deviation. Alright, I want you to be very, very, very careful, because this one here, squared, this is variance. Alright? But the one down here is standard deviation. Do you remember the connection between standard deviation and variance? What are those? What do we know about them? Standard deviation is a square of variance, or standard deviation is a square root of variance. Okay? That's a quick way of memorizing. Before we go to more of those, the hardest part of this topic is mainly to figure out where to look at the graph or the table, sort of that. There are many, many ways on how to look at it. More than one ways. Some lecturers have their own ways, some lecturers have their favorite ways. Okay, this is my favorite ways of to look at it. I hope you have print them. Okay, to the viewers, I will put the link in the description. So let's go through them. Hopefully it's bright enough for you. I think I'll redraw them. Okay, the main idea is once you calculate, once you want to find the value of z, x minus mean, let's stick with the thing that is easy for us to read first, x minus mean over standard deviation, you will get a value of z, or sometimes we can say an a. Okay, and this value, let's say a, it can either be positive or negative. And that's where most of the troubles comes in. It's where to look at it. Alright, let's say if you calculate this one, and it gives you a positive a from here. Right, just like, for example, if I said, just for example, 2 minus 1 over 0.5, what do you get? 2, right? 1, 2. So this is considered as positive a. If let's say I calculate something like this, negative 3 minus 1 over 0.5, I get myself negative 8. Then this is considered as negative. People at the back, can you hear my voice? Okay. So let's try. If I want to calculate where pz more than a, where will it be? The a here is positive. Where will it be on the graph? If here's the mu, your mean, and the a is here. More than a, that means it's over here. You guys okay? This is the most basics of all. If you would like to calculate like this, then it's easily just look at the table, then you can find the answers. That's the most basics. Just a little note. What about if there's equal down here? And this is just the same. Okay, if there's equal, if there's no equal, it will be the same. It doesn't play a role. Why, sir? Because normal distribution is continuous. So it doesn't play roles. Okay, let's go further down. If I would like to calculate where pz less than a, where will it be on the graph? Remember, a is still positive. So since your a is positive, that means it's on the right side. Less than a, it means going in this direction. Okay? But the table, this table here, it can only read in which direction? Left to right, and to be more precise, the table can only read in this set. And what's more, only half of it, not more than that. If it's over here, if it's slightly more, if it's in the other direction, then the table can't read. Okay? So here, the table could not read it. But where can the table read? The table can read over here. You agree with me? It's in this region. What do we know about the total number of probability? 1. So what about here will be 1 minus what? This one. Okay? PZ more than A. Are you okay? And when you read this far, what do? This is the same as this. And you read at the table. You guys okay? Right, so let's have another example. What about an easy one first? They are asking you PZ, where the Z is between of A and B. A and B is still positive, so where? Positive, you mean right side. We can say here is A. You can say here is B. So in between this area. How do we calculate that? Yep, A minus B. Z more than A minus Z and B. If you're having difficulties, then what we are doing is basically this. Minus basically here's your blue and here's a bit of red. Since the table is reading from left to right, I'm reading the whole A, then I minus this small part. Understand? So here will be PZ more than A minus PZ more than B. You guys following? We're going to them basic from step by steps. And how do you read from here? You read from table. Okay? Right, now we're trying from another direction instead. What about this? PZ less than negative A. So negative means left direction. So your A will be here, less where? This side. You okay? What do we know about table? Reading from the table. Table can only read from this direction. You cannot read over here. The thing about normal graph, normal distribution, is that the left side is equal to the right side. The left side is symmetrical to the right side. So I can flip it. Not yet. Not yet. I flip it. Yeah, I used to have that problem as well. I accidentally minus at the wrong place. I flip it to this side. So right now I'm reading in this direction. And how do I read here? This is what? PZ more than A. These two readings are the same. So we just flip. Why can we flip, class? Because it's symmetrical. Okay, so if you got less than negative, or if you're reading from this area, then you flip it. Okay? I don't really memorize this much, but I know the reading from the graph. So I know how to do. Okay, now let's try these sides. PZ more than negative A. Yeah, this is equal is regardless. If there's one of this, there's no one. Okay, where's negative A? Negative A is the left direction. Z is more than negative A. Where? I want to calculate here. You guys okay? Makes sense, yes. So how do we calculate that? It's more than what we want. We cannot do this one. So yes, you want to do 1 minus style, but how? I can say, I can flip it. Are they still the same? This blue value, the blue value over here, is it still the same as blue value over here? The probability are still the same. So I just want to take this part out. How do I take this part out? You remember how to take this part out? 1 minus what? Okay, try write down your answers and we compare them. Alright, you have calculated this just now, we have done this. It's identical to this one here. I want this part, I just don't want this part. So 1 minus PZ more than A. It's identical what we have done just now. Okay, so once you reach here, what do you do for here? You read it from the table. So this part here, what do? We flip. Basically, if you see negative, you can always want to flip them. Can I move on? Okay, now what about this? For P, negative A, Z, and positive B. That's a bit tough. Where is it on the graph first? Well, negative is left side. Positive is right side. And I want to calculate in this area. And my strategy is still the same as how we calculate this one over here just now. Where I want to calculate between this, what do? I minus this part. Okay? So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to calculate this whole part here, and I'm going to minus this part. Okay? The strategy is still the same as this one. So I'm going to divide this into two. I'm going to split this into two parts. I'm going to do this way. Negative A minus B. Let's calculate this one first. This one is easier. How? This one is PZ more than B. Alright? We agree? Okay, now this one here, this we cannot calculate directly because it's more than the half. It's more than half. Remember that our table can only read these sides. So how should we calculate this one? How we have done just now. Okay, it's how as we have done just now. This is identical to this one. Right, so I cannot read it directly. What do? I flip it. I flip the table, not flip the hair or flip your tudung. Girls will understand. How do we calculate this part? 1 minus which part? Minusing this part, okay? So 1 minus P Z more than A. Okay, I'm sorry, this part, since it's, I already flip it, negative become positive. This minus over here. Understand? So that's the least complicated way I can imagine for you. Let's have a look at it again. If I see I'm going to minus this part, I'm going to find the one in the middle. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to split this into two parts, where this whole thing minus this small part here. Okay, this part is easy because it's positive. You can just read it directly. But this part here, since it's the negative area, what do? I flip it over here and I got here. And once I reach here, how do I read this one? I read them from the table. Okay? So we are building up our basics bits by bits. The strategies are all the same. Now, what about something like this? Both of them, this time, is in negative. Where is it firstly on the graph? Which one is less, A or B? Which one is on the left side? A or B? A is less than B. Negative A, negative B. So I want to calculate this area. Okay, there are many ways on how to calculate this one. Since both of them are in negative, right? Both of them in negative, I propose that we flip them up before we calculate further down. This one here, B or A? This one is B, the nearest one, B. And the furthest one, go over here. You okay? So how do we calculate this part? How do we calculate this one? The ideas are the same. Come on. I'm going to split it into two parts. B minus A. You okay? You got the idea? Understand? Steps by steps. Don't need to go too fast. And how do we read from here? You just read it directly from the table. Okay, class, are you okay? Remember this one here, since both of them are negative, I propose we flip them out first, and then you minus them. You take the whole thing, minus the small part, and we are done. Okay, this one is a bit tricky. What about if they are symmetrical? it can appear in many ways. It can, the hardest form it can appear is something like this, where PZ modulus less than A. It can appear something like that. What about modulus? Do you still remember? I recommend you try to solve the inner part first. How do you open the modulus here? Negative A, positive A. So this one will be, instead of this one, I can rewrite it as PZ negative A, positive A. Where is it on the graph? Some of you get the answers. Negative A and A. I like when you do it that way. That's how I think it as well. And I want to calculate this area. Yep, that's the idea. There are many ways on how to figure this one out. The long way will be that you do this part here minus this part here, and remember this one is negative, so you can flip it around. Okay, that's the long way, which I say is not wrong. It's fine. But if you can figure things out, what do we know about this case? This is a bit different. What makes this special compared to this? This one is negative A and B. This one is negative A and A. I can say that for this one here, only this value and these sides are different. Right? The right side here is different from this side here. But for this case, since it's negative A and A, they are symmetrical left and right. So this value here is the same. So that means I can do this. If 1, the whole probability is 1, minus this part here. Okay? PZ. What about this part? More than A. You agree? And this part here is the same as here. That means I can just times 2. I can just times 2. 1 minus 2. PZ more than A. You will get the answers. That's the quickest way of how to get the answers. So moral of the story of this technique is, where it's the negative side, we just flip it up. That's the whole idea. Okay, you can review the whole thing again. If it's the right side, can you see? Let me try to zoom a bit. Okay, firstly, you calculate yourself the z value, x minus mean over standard deviation. You either will get positive or negative. And then if it's positive, the right side, you just read directly from the table. Okay? If something like this, you want to calculate the left side, but I can minus here, so you minus it. If something in between, I just do this part minus with the small part there. I split it. If it's left side, what do? I simply flip it to the right side. Okay? This one here is the same. I cannot calculate the whole thing. I just simply flip them up. And if I got something in between, I just do the same technique. This whole part minus that small part there. If I see that both of them are negative values, I can simply flip them up and then calculate this part minus that part. Alright? A very special case, we go to symmetrical. What do we know about symmetrical? This part here is the same as that part here. So you can basically times 2. 1 minus that. 1 minus that. If you're unable to remember this part, then just do the same as how you calculate for this one here. Alright, it's going to give you the same answers, but it's slightly longer. If you remember, you can get it directly or, yeah, quite long. Okay, hopefully that will be a good tips for you on how to calculate things.